Okay, so Nike officially unveiled Giannis Antetokounmpo's third signature sneaker, the Zoom Freak 3. And I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm really excited to talk about this sneaker. There's a lot going on here. When I first saw these, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but the first impressions of the Freak 3 are good. However, there are some very interesting things going on with its performance as well as its visuals. So we're gonna cover all that in today's video, as well as a release date, pricing information on the Freak 3. So hopefully at the end of this video, you're gonna comment down below whether or not you're gonna pick up a pair for yourself or pass on the Freak 3 altogether. But before we talk about the newly unveiled Freak 3, let's talk about these two sneakers right here and kind of where the Freak line overall stands with us as fans and consumers. All right, so let's start with the Freak one. Now, this shoe was pretty basic. Its defining feature didn't even have anything to do with its performance. It was actually a visual feature, and that would probably be this huge reverse swoosh that kind of is engulfed by the midsole as well, so you got real 90s vibes. So the Freak one had that going for it. I personally really like that visual design element here, but the rest of the shoe was basic. The upper didn't really offer anything unique at all, and its defining feature performance-wise was a double stack zoom setup in the heel, but everyone kind of wished that it was in the forefoot rather than the back of the shoe, since you spend most of your time on the front of your foot rather than on the back. The Freak one was just kind of an okay starter, but you know, when a first signature sneaker in a signature line drops, you kind of give it the benefit of the doubt. You want Nike to make improvements on the second one. So that leads us to these bad boys, the Freak 2. I don't know why I call them bad boys, because this shoe was kind of disappointing. Now, in my opinion, the Freak 2 was a step up visually from its predecessor. I really like the overall shape. I really dig that sculpted midsole design, and I actually don't mind that huge swoosh on the lateral side as well. However, the colorways that Nike put out of the Freak 2, there were a lot of bad ones, and I feel like it really took away from the visual appeal of the Freak 2. But when they did give it a clean colorway like those purple amethyst ones, they looked really good. I thought it was a good looking sneaker. I would rock them both on and off the court, but unfortunately there were just too many bad colorways, like this Niger one, which I know it's inspired by Nigeria. That's where Giannis' family is from. I love all that. I love the inspiration, but when it comes to the execution, the clashing patterns on the upper and the tongue just didn't do it for me. And then you have this really out of place number 34 on the medial overlay. Now, in terms of performance, the Freak 2 was also somewhat disappointing in this area as well. Now, if you remember in the Freak 1, they had double stack zoom units in the heel, and Nike listened to our criticism there and they moved the zoom units into the forefoot, which was a good idea, but unfortunately it's only a single zoom unit and they left nothing in the heel. So technically they took tech away from us and charged us more, which kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, it was a good idea, but the zoom unit in the forefoot just was not substantial enough. I didn't really feel it underneath the ball of my foot. And on top of that, the traction was iffy, and the overall security of the shoe just never made me feel fully safe at all times. So the performance, while the visuals were an upgrade, the performance was not. So if you're counting at home, the Freak 1, those were a disappointment. The Freak 2, those were also a disappointment. So Nike really had to come correct with the Freak 3, and in my opinion, they absolutely did. I mean, just take a look at these guys. The Zoom Freak 3 is one beautiful looking sneaker. I am very, very excited about these visually. The performance, kind of on the fence on. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I just want to talk about the visuals and get that out of the way right now, because in my opinion, these are easily the best Giannis sneaker to date, and I believe a huge reason for that are the colorways. Nike officially unveiled two colorways. You have this black, white, and slightly purple Project 34 colorway, as well as an orange one, which just looks awesome. I mean, both of these are extremely clean. The black and white one is more traditional, but I love that splash of color on the strap, while the orange colorway is just really nice. It's vibrant. The patterns on the upper work with the rest of the sneaker. And I also like the small hits of branding that Nike put on this silhouette as well. These are absolutely beautiful. Nike knocked it out of the park with these two colorways, but there is also a third aqua colorway, which is equally as impressive. And this is what I was talking about with the Freak 2, right? I mean, that sneaker, the colorways were awful. And like I said, I feel like it took away from its visual design. The Freak 3 is the complete opposite. Not only do I think the overall silhouette is beautiful, but the colorways just enhance that. So Nike did not make the same mistake twice. So I gotta give them props. Bravo, Nike, you didn't f this one up. Now, the next thing I noticed on the Freak 3 was actually two things kind of at the same time. It was the midsole design as well as the strap. Now, the strap, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's gonna provide some lockdown in that area. We're gonna touch on that a little bit later. Just hold on. But visually, I really like its design. It's got texture. It's got a great shape. It's not too big, not too small. That's what she said. It's just kind of the right size, but I really like it. It adds a splash of color. It gives Nike the opportunity to be really creative on it. And again, I like the branding that's implemented on the strap as well. But the midsole design is also very retro-like. It gives me a real late 90s, early 2000s vibe. It's kind of futuristic, which kind of fits Giannis's overall player archetype, right? He's kind of a player from the future. But overall, if you take a look at the Freak 3 as a whole from a distance, doesn't it remind you of a particular Kevin Durant signature sneaker as well? I mean, honestly, guys, don't these look like the Nike KD 7s? I mean, that's what I first thought of when I saw the Freak 3. You got the same strap placement. I know the Freak 3's cut is a little bit higher, but overall, it is very, very similar. And I think that's a good thing because the KD 7 not only was one of the best Kevin Durant signature sneakers in terms of visuals, but the colorways on them were awesome as well. And it looks like the Freak 3 is following in that sneaker's footsteps, which I think is awesome. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about these. Do you like the visuals? If you don't, let me know what is throwing you off about them in the comment section below. So go ahead, drop a comment. Now let's start talking about the tech that these have to offer. Now, the biggest news coming out of the press release for the Freak 3 is probably going to be the cushioning, because this is the biggest change that Nike made from the Freak 2 over the Freak 3. But that is not what I'm most excited about in terms of performance. The thing that I'm most excited about is the traction. Take a look at this outsole, guys. This setup looks absolutely beastly. I wish you guys saw my first reaction to these. I was so excited when I saw this because, as you guys know, one of the best traction setups of all time was from the Kobe 9, which I actually made a shirt inspired by, which I'm wearing right now. You could actually purchase this shirt for yourself as well. It's called the GOAT tee. It stands for greatest of all traction. And the outsole of that Kobe 9, that same design, looks very, very similar to what we have here on the Freak 3. And like I said earlier, both the Freak 1 and the Freak 2 had iffy traction. So it looks like Nike just said, screw it, go with what we know works and call it a day. It is gonna come down to the rubber compound and how tacky it is and how well it holds up on, multiple surfaces. But I have extremely high hopes for this outsole. I think it is going to provide a top tier traction experience, and I cannot wait to test these on the grimiest, dirty floor to see if this outsole truly is the greatest of all traction. Now, going back to the cushioning, Nike is actually using the dual zoom unit setup that we saw in the Freak 1, but instead of having it in the heel, Nike is keeping the zoom units in the forefoot. However, these zoom units are not double stacked. Much like the KD signature line, the Freak 3 zoom units are actually side by side by each other. Now, my first thought when I read this was that it kind of reminded me of the LeBron 12 zoom pod setup, where you kind of had pods of zoom units all around the bottom of the shoe. But with the Freak 3, obviously there's only 2 zoom units and they kind of sit side by each other. So I don't really know how this is going to feel. If the Freak 1 and Freak 2 is any indication of how Giannis likes the front of his shoe to feel, he does prefer a minimal setup. He kind of likes to feel low to the ground here. And that language is used in the press release for the Freak 3. So even though there are 2 zoom units in the front of the Freak 3, I'm not expecting any type of really, powerful setup in the front of this silhouette. I think it's going to be pretty minimal. If anything, it's going to be a fast setup, but you're not going to get that explosiveness that you get in like the Zion 1, which I just reviewed, by the way. Make sure you check out that video. It's just not going to have that same feel, but I am excited to try out this kind of new setup. The side-by-side zoom units is an interesting idea, so I'm excited. I am curious about this new setup, but we're just gonna have to wait and find out until I get myself a pair. Now, in terms of the strap, I kind of already touched on it, but Nike talks about how this is going to keep the center of gravity of Giannis's foot locked into place so his foot doesn't roll over the footbed. I think this is great. It's easier said than done, so I can't wait to see if that strap actually has a performance benefit. The upper of the Freak 3 looks very comfortable. It looks like a textile material. I'm very excited about that. Hopefully they nail the fit. For the most part, both the Freak 1 and Freak 2 had a true to size fit. If anything, the Freak 2 was a little too narrow in the midfoot, so hopefully Nike tweaked things there as well. But I mean, overall, guys, I'm really excited about the Freak 3. It's a must cop in my opinion. But yeah, overall, I am really excited about the Freak 3. I love its visuals. I think the performance is going to be interesting. Hopefully they keep the price. They didn't really announce a price for the Freak 3, so hopefully it remains at the $120 price tag that the Freak 2 had. Now, as for the Freak 3, they are set to release in North America sometime in August, according to Nike. They didn't specify exactly when. However, they have already started to release internationally. So let me know down below if you guys are planning on picking up a pair for yourself. I know I am. I'm going to try to get these day one. I'm very excited to see how they fit, how it feels, and just how they look on feet. I think it's a beautiful looking sneaker. I'm very excited about it. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about these as well. So make sure you drop a comment and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more sneaker related content just like this. My name's Jaron. It's been good having you. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.